The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the host and guest and do not reflect the opinions or policies of the station, its owners, or its advertisers. All content should be considered editorial in nature. Listener discretion is advised.
Recorded live. Cumberland County's smartest hour of talk radio. Welcome back to another edition of the Carolina Cabinet.
Well, everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the Carolina Cabinet. I'm your host, Peter Pappas, in studio with Mrs. Laura Musler.
Hello, hello.
And with U.S. Senate candidate, Mr. Richard Dansie. How do I say your name? Properly. Dansie? Okay, beautiful. I finally get it right. Well, we are proud to be the only homegrown conservative talk radio show in the region, and we know this is the smartest hour of radio. Our job is to give a voice to the conservatives of Fayetteville, Cumberland County, and beyond. And with that, we're going to jump right in. How about
buddy.
that?
Hello.
So
that was fast.
Yeah, very fast, very fast. So, what you been up to in the last 2 days since we were last on the air?
I'm trying to take it easy to recover from my horrible illness this weekend.
Well, I did try to do my part to help.
Yes, you did get me a heater. Thank goodness. It doesn't feel like it's kicking out yet. But,
no, it's give it time. Like any good things, good things come to those who wait. And you're not.
I want it now.
Patient kind of gal. Yeah. Did you print me my notes for the show?
I didn't print anybody's notes for the show. I thought you were going to do it.
I'm going to do it now.
Okay.
Why not? That's what we got Jim here for, is to go fetch them, I guess. Oh, and Jim, thanks a lot for the Wi-Fi. It was over in the shelf.
I told you we were moving stuff around.
The access point. I was wondering why the speed was off the other day, and I'm like, yeah, that's why. We had unplugged the Wi-Fi.
Wow. Oops.
Yeah. Does Jim have any Jim Did It segments today? Or Blame Jim? Okay.
Jim.
No Blame Jim today?
No, but Jim needs to go get our notes, though, because I didn't.
Yes, I'm printing them now. He can go get them. But, we know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
We got a U.S. Senate candidate in the room.
That's true.
So why don't let's do a little introduction.
Sure.
Tell us about yourself a little bit. And I always like to ask my candidates in the room, why did you decide to do this? So just tell us some bio background right now, and then we'll get into the tough questions.
So I've always had a political interest. And as a teenager, I lived with my grandparents.
Okay.
My grandpa had served in the World War II in the Navy. And so that built a lot of my, my
civic
patriotism. Yeah.
Okay.
And then before I even graduated high school, I signed up for the military, and 12 days out of high school, I'm in the Army.
So, all right, military career or just maybe 3 to 5 years? What did you?
I just did 4 years.
Okay.
Military intelligence.
Okay.
That's
2 languages.
See, now you say that, and I said that in front of my grandfather one time, Korea, Vietnam vet war. He about tanned my hide for saying that shit.
Well,
so you got to be careful.
Okay, I'll be careful.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but he gets it. I mean, military intelligence. What kind of things did you do in intelligence?
Exactly.
Okay, there you go.
I mean, the problem is that you can't really disclose a lot of what we did, how we gathered things, and so it leaves a lot of people wondering what we do, and that means you don't know. Okay, fair enough. So once you got out of military, what did you end up doing? I kind of fell into the IT field.
Okay.
So I've been in the IT field for 3 decades now. I love it. It's great. I've always had a political leaning and political interest.
Okay.
And 3 years ago, I found myself staring down. I was laid off.
Okay.
And I decided to just start researching everything as an IT engineer. I started analyzing what's wrong with our society today, what's going wrong, and doing root cause analysis.
So that sounds really nerdy.
That's exactly what it is.
So you dove deep into the numbers.
I went back. I started looking at all of the issues we're facing and where these started from, what the origination was.
What issues?
You name it. Any type of social problem.
No, you name it. You're the one who looked at you did the research. What do you see as issues?
Well, one of the big things that I've been focused on is fiscal, our financial problems.
Okay.
Most people don't understand that how much FDR blew up the federal budget as a percent of GDP. And that is when the country really started stagnating. And they don't, we didn't feel the effects because we had banked enough. There was enough economy built up that we didn't feel it until the 60s. But FDR took our spending. When he came into office, our federal budget was 4% of GDP, and he took it to 20%. So he added, that one president alone added more debt than all the other presidents combined. So FDR added more than 44 other presidents, right? Okay. And that means that if he did that, that fundamentally changed the course of our country, and it turned us into an entitlement welfare state.
Okay. So, but wasn't he a victim of his time and poor monetary policy back then? I mean, they didn't really understand the Great Depression and the things that caused that. Did they see another way out? This is a big historical thing.
Absolutely.
And there's different ways to look at it. I'm not being adversarial. It's just,
no, I love this.
Do you think they had a choice? I mean, what could they have done?
There's a lot of other things they could have done to stimulate the economy that weren't permanent government growth.
Okay. Fair enough.
So
are you saying that was the beginning of the people eating fish without learning how to fish?
Basically.
Yep.
Okay.
I like that. Well, it just so happens that, one thing we wanted to talk about today was the economic outlook for 2026. So we're right in the wheelhouse, even just ask you to introduce yourself. So basically, our economy has shown steady but not explosive growth.
Right.
And that's one thing. And I don't know if you watched enough of our shows to know that sometimes we question the GOP talking points that are sent out. So, but in a nice way, we try to say, well, is that,
we should. I mean, the GOP talking points have been that way forever, but they're not doing anything any good. Right. So I'm trying to, get the rubber on the road.
It's a little truth in advertising. We're just trying to say, look, we know that we're happier as a country if we have a conservative leadership, however, what's the real proof in the pudding? Where's the real numbers showing? So.
I just wish we would be a little more realistic. I mean, if you're going to give GOP talking points, let them be realistic. Well, okay. So they talk about the growth of the economy. So I did a little bit of research. Now, pre-COVID, because COVID is not fair.
That's an outlier if there ever was one.
So pre-COVID,
I'm going to challenge that back when we get at another point.
Okay. Pre-COVID, we were 2.5% average GDP growth through the Trump era. Well, then we go to Biden, where everybody says, oh my gosh, while inflation did go up, however, we had a 2.4 average GDP growth. Now they're predicting that it's 2.25, maybe 2.5, whatever. So there is no huge economic growth that they're talking about. It's steady as she goes. So when they talk about this great economic recovery, they're fluffing. Is that the word? Puffing things up. Fluffing. I don't know.
Chatsworth, California.
Okay, I don't know. Whatever. When we say things about there's this great economic growth, in my mind, I'm thinking that we're not being truthful, and you lose credibility. We're having great steady. We're steady as she goes. We may be having economic growth in this point but overall, the GDP hasn't changed.
Right.
Yet.
Right. And you talk about GDP there, but again, the inflationary damage countered a lot of the GDP growth, right? And then we still have federal government spending is typically about 3% in annual increases in commitment. And so if you have a 2.4 growth and you've got a 3% increase in federal spend, then we're going backwards.
Right.
So to me, that's why fiscal policy is so crucial, because we need to address it. And what we've done for the last 70 years isn't addressing it.
Do you think Doge helped address it? And also they're saying with the renewing of the Medicare, Medicaid things, because they were so strict on it, that millions of people did not reapply.
Yeah, and there's some side effects there that I still haven't had time to really dig into. But as far as, fiscal policy, we have to change something. And that means fundamental change, not just, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And, when we talk about growth, I think that while growth is important, what we really need to do is, and my focus is strengthening currency, right? Confidence in the dollar has been going down for 25 years. And if we can fix that, if we can just go back and resolve that problem, deflate the currency a little bit, people would find things more affordable, right? That's a big buzzword right now, affordability. If you want it to be affordable, stop asking for free stuff and let's budget.
That's funny because I've had that conversation with a friend of mine who's very
liberal.
Okay, that's a word.
You have friends on that side.
I do.
Yes, we have friends in all kinds of low places.
He was saying that minimum wage it makes it unaffordable to raise a family. I'm like, well, you're not supposed to raise a family on minimum wage. He says, well, I think minimum wage should be $20. I said, if you raise minimum wage to $20, the burger that you can now get for $6 will now be $20. Right. So you're just getting farther and farther behind.
I am a big opponent of minimum wage. I do not like it at all. And the reason I say that is, first, especially from the federal level, right? I'm running for a federal office, so that's my focus. If you try to put a federal minimum wage at what would be livable in California,
right,
you're going to shut down half the restaurants in Middle America.
Mm-hmm.
And so and even the California minimum wage, right, that we're talking about. If you look at how many carve outs they had to do, they didn't apply it universally, specified it for one industry. And then they had all kinds of carve outs based on
the minimum wage with maybe like restaurants with under a certain number of, so this is where it gets in my wheelhouse. I paid attention. So I think if you had fewer than so many, like 10 units, you didn't have to comply to the minimum wage increase, which was a carve out.
I think it was actually postponed, like it was delayed a period of time. So you had more years to kind of adjust.
But it's all BS. Either it's good for everybody or it's not good for anybody.
And that's kind of my platform is, logical consistency. If it doesn't work for everyone, it shouldn't work for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that means if minimum wage has to be done for a specific industry or a specific sector, then, why are we doing that? And that's just
right.
It's, to me, that's not good.
I agree.
Good lawmaking.
Yeah, no, again, like I said, if it's not good for everybody, why? I mean, and don't we have a problem with our electeds anyway?
Well,
rules for thee, not for me.
Yes,
I mean,
that is
like Laura said a million times, we need a budget in North Carolina. Don't pay these guys until they get a budget.
Yeah, why do our elected officials get paid if we don't have a budget?
So we're going to go into a different.
See, and that's kind of state level. Right? We need to talk federal, but let's.
No, even at the federal level.
Wait a minute. At the federal level, they were doing, reconciliation. There's no budget.
Well, because they didn't give. They didn't give our Lord and Savior Donald Trump. They didn't give him what he wanted, so they're like, you know what? We're going to shut the government down. All right, you want to play? Look, has this not been the year of FAFO?
It has.
I'm sorry, guys. So, but no,
sure
I mean,
has.
legitimately, it was a struggle between ideology versus reality.
Here's the problem with some of this subject, especially with legislature, where you're telling them to police themselves. Oh, and then you've got to make consequences for yourself, right? The kid is not gonna. You're not gonna tell your kid to go ground yourself because they did something wrong, right? There's a self-preservation, and so the only thing that's really going to work in Congress are incentives. And incentives do work. We know that throughout history. Now, I'm a big fan of Milton Friedman. I'm a big fan of Thomas Sowell. And a lot of what I've done about my solutions has been based on Thomas Sowell's constrained vision, where people are self-interested and we're fallible. And if you want to motivate them, you have to find a way to incentivize that. And we can. But you're not going to get it by saying, oh, let's punish Congress. Let's give them consequences. Because anything that gets brought up, the leadership, like is term limits, right? This is a good example. If you don't mind me going there, they're not gonna do a bill. Like leadership will never let a bill for term limits come out of committee.
Sure. But if they have, what about Convention of States? What if they do that?
Yeah, but there's too many wild cards when you start getting into the Convention of States, and it doesn't always go the way you may want it to go.
What do you mean?
I'd rather not get too much into that because there's going to be a lot of detail. But in all honesty, I just don't think that's the way to go to kind of impose term limits.
But see,
so Council of States would be making a constitutional amendment, is what you're
when you do when you do that, they actually have to say what they're having it for, and there's 3 issues: fiscal responsibility, term limits, and I don't remember the third one. But when you go to Convention of States, those only 3 things can be changed, and the people that are voting decide it.
I don't know. I mean, do you think? I feel like we're past the point in our own country where we can get 2/3 majority of the states to change the Constitution?
Yeah,
I mean, we can't agree on the facts of why ICE is deporting people.
We can't agree on the facts of.
I mean, we can't agree.
Who's a woman?
Exactly. What is a woman?
Right.
I mean, and none of these people have just stood up and said, "I'm looking at one next."
Right.
But,
so what I'm trying to do is work within, and especially with Congress, right? If I want to say my goal is to say, let's incentivize them. Let's give them a bonus for cutting money. If they cut spending, that gives. So first of all, we have a couple of problems in Congress. One, that the leadership has a disproportionate amount of power, right? And so it's leadership and the committees. They decide who's on those committees, and so leadership has all of the power. And so you get the rank and file that are new, the junior senators, representatives, whatever, and they have very little influence.
It's based on how much money you raise. You know that, right?
Well, and there's a lot of, even with the leadership, the lobbyists are still bringing a lot of money as well.
Right. You can only get on leadership if you've raised X amount of dollars. And I know this because I work with somebody that's...
Yeah, and I know that there's a lot of other dynamics in play, right?
Mainly money.
Well, it's always money, right? It's always money. But
everything comes down to money. It's kind of
exactly
like
right. But
people
that's not
complaining
right.
about going in after Maduro. It's about the oil. Show me any conflict that isn't eventually going to end up with oil.
because money is an incentive.
There you go.
And that's the reality of it, right? Money is an incentive.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I want to do is structure a bonus based on cost reduction per the Treasury that we pay to Congress. So my example is, let's say they save $100 billion in federal spending, right, year over year. And we pull 1% of that and distribute that 1% out to each member of the Congress equally. So that does a couple of things. One, it gives every person in Congress the same leverage, right? It gives them all, it balances power back out. And the second is it weakens lobbyists. And so,
wouldn't a flat tax do the exact same thing?
well, I'm interested also in doing a flat tax, but no.
It takes away all the power from the lobbyists if there's a flat tax.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, so what do you mean by that? Because that's like, how do you think a flat tax would weaken lobbyists?
Because everybody pays the same amount. It doesn't matter if you're going with gas or oil or cigarettes or whatever. Everybody's paying the same amount. So the lobbyists lose their power.
But a lot of lobbyists, so if you don't mind, I have an analogy for this, right?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm willing to learn.
Each member of the House basically is responsible for about $15 billion. In one of your shows, you were talking about how long it would take if you gave me $1 a minute, like 30 years. $1 billion is not something to scoff at, but we spend 7,000 billion every year, right? 7,000 billions.
And each one is
I got to follow that bouncing ball.
33.6 years.
Okay. So
he's stalking me. No, I'm just joking.
Hey, I'm glad somebody's
it's
listening
just math.
at least,
Yeah. I'm an engineer. Math is easy.
That's yeah.
So my analogy is this, that let's say you have an advertising business or a business and you hire an advertising person. Okay. You're giving them a $15 million advertising budget and paying them $150 a month to manage it. A vendor comes to you and says, oh, guess what? I know you're getting paid peanuts. I'm going to mark up our standard $400,000 package to $500,000. And then I'll hire your husband or your child for $50,000 a year. Right.
That's where term limits come in.
Well, but the problem is that the leadership, self-preservation, the leadership's not going to let that ever hit the floor.
No.
And the rank and file are going to be afraid because they'll never get those committees if they did something like a discharge vote or tried to get it out of committee. Right. So the leadership has a stranglehold, but this incentive is the one way we can get the rank and file enough power to say, no, we're going to take power back. And if there's enough buy-in by the population, an incentive structure works. And they only get it if they save money. So it's not like we're risking anything.
So if everybody saves, everybody gets a rebate.
I mean, would you pay me $1 if I could save you $100 a month off of your electric bill?
I got $1 for you.
Absolutely. Right. And that's the goal. The other thing is that if we cut federal spending, that's an annual savings, whereas the bonus is a one-time payout. So we will continue to reap the benefits of that 1%. And over years, it's going to diminish, right, what we've paid them. But we're going to get a lot higher caliber candidates, a lot better candidates, a lot of people that are more capable of managing that kind of money. I had someone on my Facebook make a comment about healthcare workers and teachers and things like that. And I'm like, I want to fix those things. Those are local mostly. But if you think about it, and I'm from Durham, so I look at Durham public schools, right? The superintendent is making $600,000 a year. So he's 3.5 times what a senator makes for a $500 million budget. So we know, if you look at just your local school districts, we know that there's a disproportionate amount of responsibility there. And that makes for fraud and waste.
Absolutely. So let's go to U.S. Senate stuff because, look, we are very much about our local, we act locally, think globally, but we gotta, we've been tied up with worrying about the potholes and the street lights and the small things like that. So, when you decided to run, I have you down as running as an outsider candidate.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment or is that an insult? I don't know.
I'm not following the party lines on a lot of things.
But
I have the same principles.
Okay. But you're a registered Republican.
Yes.
Okay. And so.
How long have you been a registered Republican?
Since I registered at 18.
Okay. Just want to check because there's people that are switching up these days. So
yeah. We discussed that last episode. I think there were 7 in the state that switched parties early enough to run, like lifelong Democrats that switched over.
I'm a lifelong Republican.
Okay. So you're running it for fiscal discipline, government competence. That's a loaded word right there. Forget the military intelligence, the government competence. That's another level. And institutional reform.
Yeah.
And dismantling socialist bureaucracy.
Okay, so
I like that.
I want to clarify some of this because one of the problems we have is, and this is kind of my joke, right? Leaning into this. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and expecting different results. Right. What has changed in either party? Well, I won't say the other party.
No, don't say the
other party.
They've lost the plot.
But what has really changed fundamentally about the way we think or the way we do business in the Republican Party in the last 30 years?
President Trump. I think he was a cog in the wheel. I think that it was not for him to get elected. I think
absolutely.
He was a cog in the wheel, and he has changed things up a lot. And he has opened a lot of people's eyes in order to see.
Yeah. I'm a big Trump supporter, but the big, beautiful bill failed on the fiscal discipline for me.
Okay.
And the fact that he wants to put, another $500 million when we've got $800 billion going to just debt, interest on the debt, not even actual debt payments. To me, that's where it fails the fiscal discipline principle of mine.
What about the tariffs bringing in that money that he?
I think the tariffs were genius. I love them. Okay. And I look forward to seeing, how they evolve because this is, and any law, in my opinion, and I'll go back to the Affordable Care Act, right? Obamacare. The Affordable Care Act, they tried to draft this perfect bill right out of the gate. And whenever they try to do that, it's going to get messed up. And we don't iterate through laws enough anymore. And that's one of the things I want to do is I want to say, okay, let's try this and iterate through it so that we, revise it as we go, fix where it needs to be fixed. And we've been very terrible at doing that.
Now, are you one person out of all of the senators going to garner support for what you would like to do? Because it's great to sit here in a radio studio and say, this is ideal, but you're one vote out of 100 votes.
Mm-hmm.
That's how ideas start. Ideas start with one vote. I'm not the first person to ever run for Senate without having prior political office. I'm certainly not going to be the most influential, but it doesn't start with anybody if I don't at least take that step forward and say, here's what I want to do. And here's why I'm doing it. I'm doing it based on principles of people that have done the work, done the academic work, and I went and applied those principles to problems we're facing.
Okay, so let's do a what if game.
Love that.
Pretend you don't win the primary. Okay. How can you reach out to whoever does win the primary and offer your services and your ideas? Because one of the things that I always believe in is that people that run for office have their mindset. And one of the greatest things in leadership, in my opinion, is taking like Dave Bullock did it, our auditor. He took all the people that were running for auditor. You know where they all work now? In the auditor's office. What a brilliant man and what a great leader to take his quote unquote opponents and say, you have ideas, bring them with you. So what would you do if, let's say, somebody else, our next person
absolutely.
wins? What would you do to reach out so that you would take your ideas, or would you? Or what are you going to do to implement your ideas in the future if per se you don't win?
I don't.
I'm going to ask you the same question.
I'm going to be fair, right? I mean, the competition in this Senate race is stiff. Sir Whatley of Michael was. We don't mention
opponents' names
unless he puts it that way. That's good. Sir Whatley of Michael. I like that.
Okay.
So I mean, my competitors each have their own advantages. First of all, again, if we're doing the same things, we've got attorneys. 48 of the 100 senators are attorneys. They account for less than 1% of the population. How is that representative, right? So I'm a tech entrepreneur, and I'm trying to give people an option. And if you want to vote for the lawyer, politician, great, go for it. But don't whine to me because I'm not going to put up with it, right? If you want to complain, make sure you're doing something different. And what is that? Right. And it starts at the poll box, at the polls.
Nobody ever that's the same thing that I always say. You guys won't complain. And then you vote the exact same people in over.
They don't do the due diligence. And that's where a lot of society is really kind of falling apart. We're not doing enough homework anymore. Right.
Yeah.
You get clickbait, you get headlines, and we're not doing a little bit of reading. I mean, I've read probably 200 books in the past 3 years, all political leaning, a lot of Thomas Sowell, some Jason Riley, a bunch of other things. I mean, I started with, there was one thick book about Eleanor Roosevelt that I got about 10 pages into it. And I went, I don't need that kind of detail. But I've been doing a lot of reading. So I've trying to make sure that I'm based in my
paperback, hardback, or Kindle, or something else?
Audible.
All of the above.
All of the above.
I don't listen to books as often as I read them, but
Right.
there were a few that I pulled up off of Archive.
Okay.
Archive.org.
Yeah.
But like, depending on what kind of book it was, I might buy it from different places. Some books I bought off of eBay intentionally because I didn't want to support the author.
Okay, now let's play the what if game in the other way. You win the primary.
Oh, then I have my hands full.
Okay, so then what do you take from your opponents, or do you reach out to your opponents? Because like I said, Dave Bullock
Absolutely
got my utmost respect when they all have jobs with him. So to me, that was so impressive.
I have a couple of candidates that I have very much interest in making sure that I think that they would guarantee that I won the election if they were on my team.
Okay.
So I am well aware that that's a good resource, and I hope that if they decide I'm a good resource, let's do that. Right.
See, I love the competition of it, but once you get past the competition of it, once you got everybody brings, people are so worried about the winning of it as opposed to bringing somebody in who has either more knowledge than you in a different area, because I think everybody's knowledgeable.
How many times have we in local party affairs had to remind people you're running for the seat? You're not running against that guy or girl.
Right.
Stop slinging and stop bringing up this negative BS. You're all supposed to be Republicans. Right. And that should be enough. But now the litmus test is, how Republican are you? Are you a rhino? Are you a this, that? You know, it's like, I'm Republican. I'm registered Republican. Am I your kind of Republican? Probably not.
My next question is going to be the question that I would ask a Democrat if he was sitting here.
What is a woman?
Bring it.
No. How are you, as a registered Republican, going to reach out? And because you're representing not just Republicans, you're representing Democrats too.
Absolutely.
How do you reach out to them? How do you garner their respect and their voice and what they want also?
So we all have different opinions, right? I mean, that's part of the beauty of a country of 340 million people. We all have different ideas. And that's one of the reasons why I focus so much on individual liberty. I want people to understand that they have worth. I'm not going to diminish their value because they have a different opinion, but I want to be able to have discussions. So if you come to the table sincere and genuine and you want to have a discussion, let's talk, right? If you come in and your only objective is to just, make attacks, pejoratives, I'm not interested. I don't have time for that. But I do have time for people that want to have constructive dialogue. And I don't care what party you are, because it's not like you're wearing an elephant or a donkey when you sit down to have a discussion with me. I'm not going to ask. It's not a qualifier.
Did you just call me an elephant? No, I'm just joking.
I called you a donkey.
Okay. Yeah, whatever.
You definitely have a memory. So, you have some elements.
To me, it's I'm not asking for party affiliation when somebody sits down to have a discussion. I want to be able to have those discussions because I think I have good ideas. I want to share those ideas. And if someone else introduces something, maybe a fact or I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah. See, to me, if just pretend for a moment that I was running for senator and I won, I would get a representative in each county, the GOP representative and the Democrat representative, and say, talk to your people. I want to, and then because we have 100 counties, and do divide it up, 25 here, 20, and have 4 people meet with me monthly because they've met, or quarterly or whatever, because they've met with those people monthly to find out what's going on. That to me would be so progressive and impactful. So I've got 25 counties meeting with one person, so I don't have to answer to 100 people, and then go from there. You're laughing at me.
I am smiling a little bit because you're building a hierarchy, and a hierarchy is probably oppressive.
How is that oppressive? Listening to the people's.
Go ahead, explain it away, Richard.
I'm just saying,
you open this box.
If a family structure and patriarchy and any other type of organized structure is oppressive, I just know people that would say that that's the case. 4 people here and 4 people here.
No, these 4 people meet with these 25 people, so you know what's going on.
I think it's a great idea. The only reason I was chuckling, I'm like, I'm all in. That's a great idea. That's delegation and being able to manage your.
Because you can't talk to 100 people. Actually, it would be 200 people because we have 200 counties, and you would want the Democrat leader and the Republican leader for each county. And you sit down and you're like, okay, and then have 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, and you all sit in a room and hear ideas. That to me is not.
I do have one of the things that I've been working with some other people, volunteers that I have helping me, is setting up a town hall where we can have 4 or 5 counties attend, and we can announce that and have the GOP, for those counties. We're doing this for the primaries. We find a central spot so that people don't have to drive too far, and that we say,
I know you say the
7:30.
GOP, but what about the Democrats? They're important. Like here in Fayetteville,
Not
the
right now.
Not before the primaries.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Not for the primaries.
Man,
What about independents? Independents.
Unaffiliated.
They can't vote in the primaries
if I may, do we not have an open primary?
No.
Not for Republicans, I don't think.
No, what would you call an open primary?
Where you can pull up that. Oh, no, that's.
Well, yeah, if you're unaffiliated, you get to go in there and say Dem or Republican. And that's what the Democrats were trying to do in those 7, not counties, but the districts, screwing with people's minds.
Well, that's why I say I would be inviting independents too.
Yeah. Unaffiliateds and all, but unaffiliateds account, they're the largest.
They are the largest. They're the most
largest
important.
group
They're
of
the
registered
swing
voters
votes.
right now.
They're the swing ones.
Usually they go conservative, but
however,
it's up to look, I've said before, it's up to us to have dynamic enough candidates to make it worth their while to flip a switch for you, because we've had some candidates that are real damn duds. I'm sorry, but
it's anybody that can fill out a form and write a check.
Yes, sir.
Right.
That's all there is to it.
And I was very cautious about doing this and make sure I was prepared. But I mean, a lot of the independents are kind of focused on a couple of issues, right? And it's the same: immigration, trans, finance, fiscal.
Transportation or transforming?
Anyway,
yes.
Yeah.
We all know what we're
trans.
talking about. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Trans.
and I have very similar, we should be protecting our kids so I started to say my 3 principles, right? Logical consistency, individual liberty, and fiscal discipline. Those are the 3 kind of what the lens I look through when I'm looking at stuff. If a child cannot decide to get a tattoo until they're 21, why can they get top surgery?
Why can they take hormones to change their life?
Exactly. And so
why do we allow permanent decisions before they're of age, or for other smaller things like drinking some liquor, smoking, or tattoo?
Exactly.
But they're old enough to know I want to identify as something else.
I would be a unicorn right now if I was, because that's all I ever wanted to be was a unicorn.
Okay. I could see that. Glitter and all.
Glitter.
I mean,
rays of sunshine wherever I go.
Do we need to dig into that anymore, or can we move on to something else?
We can move on to something. I didn't have the surgery. I don't
have
a horn coming out of
you don't. Yeah, you decided against it. Probably too expensive because you don't have. No, you're not in jail to have free health care.
If you spoke to my mom right now and I were born today, and because I played football, I was the first female on an all boys wrestling team when I was little. I was always one of the first people picked on the football team, as a matter of fact. I climbed trees. I would be made to be a boy.
Yeah.
I was just a tom girl, but I loved all the little shiny things.
But we were in our generation were afforded the space that nobody gave a damn. Like, just show up before the lights come on and you're good.
Right.
There was a different mindset of raising children.
Yeah, we actually played outside.
And I mentioned George Carlin last show, but he talks about, and he's been dead for 15, 20 years, but he talks about that children have been fetishized. They're now a little thing and they care about little Johnny and this, that, and the other. And he says, he goes through a thing like, save the children, protect the children. He says, you know what I say? F the children, and that was George Carlin's, at the time, very liberal stance. And it's come full circle that now we fetishize the children, or some people have to such an extent that we fought so hard for women's rights and other things, and we've come full circle and we're eating them. Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm going to bring that clip for George Carlin.
We could definitely go down that toll.
We can go that, but
okay. So tell us.
And gender stuff is not the only problem I'm facing. I'm worried about families being able to feed themselves, pay their mortgage. Right. Housing insecurity should not be an American problem.
So tell me about this 10% interest rate on credit cards. What do you think of that? For 1 year. He said for 1 year, actually.
I'm curious to see how that's going to pan out. Part of me likes it and part of me does not like it. Okay. And so I want to see how it.
I would say 10% interest for 1 year on established debt already, to not get people further in debt, number one.
Right.
To help, because the idea is to help them get out of the financial hole that they're in. I love that idea.
Yeah.
I think it's great that if we could.
If I can say something, when I first heard it, the first thing I'm thinking is, how are the companies going to work around it?
And that was,
right.
And
what I said
sounds good on the surface. Yeah, sure. From 18% to 10, that's great.
It's not 18%. It's
28,
30%. Some people.
Whatever it is, it ain't 10. But how are they going to figure out a way to, not let the consumer have that 10%. But for 1 year, I think they can handle it.
I think so too. I think that's a great idea. Only for established debt, not for new debt. If you want to choose to acquire new debt during that time, then it's you. But to me, that would help people get out of these holes that they're in, because consumer debt is at an all-time high.
And especially with low, people that are kind of struggling with things. It's not the percentage rate, it's the fees that they get tacked on. And those fees, like you're talking about, right? Capitalism reacts to things. So I'm curious, again, it's hard to see how this is really going to pan out, right? The ramifications of, banks and credit card agencies and things like that, what they're going to do in reaction. And so, like I said, personally, I like it. I think that there's a lot of potential here, but we need to monitor it, which is something government's not necessarily good at, right? I pass this bill, yay, and they move on to the next bill.
What do you think about one subject bills? Because they do these bills, and there's
I hate the huge, pork-filled bills. I would love to see. I think our legal system has become too complicated for. I mean, the lay person has 100 IQ, right? And to become an attorney and understand all the laws, even then they don't. And laws have become too complicated, right? If as a citizen, I'm supposed to adhere to these laws, they need to be understandable by
thou
everyone.
shalt not kill.
There you go.
There's
at least 10 that are pretty serious, pretty straightforward, I think.
Obviously, again, the country's a lot bigger. We have a lot more budget, and there's a lot more complexity that's, as part of that. Simplifying the laws is how we should be doing it to help people. And I'd love to start with the tax code. I'd love to start with,
I would like to start with getting the federal government out of my daily life.
I agree.
I think that the federal government was to oversee the country's
security. Why don't we go back
security.
to pre-1920 when there was no Fed?
That would be great.
I mean, we didn't have an IRS before 1920.
So we had tariffs.
I mean, I'm trying not to go all the way back to 1920, right? But I also want to get back to, I'd like to see our federal spending under.
Obama famously said, if you rode on a road or whatever, you didn't build that. Well, led everybody to the question, well, how the hell do we build roads, ships, and bridges before the IRS? They took out bonds. There was other ways to raise funds. So I would like to get back to some of that, and so that we can say we built that. So, yeah.
And there's a lot of other things.
Yes, we did build. We built it off of our hard work. Because let's say back in I just watched, what was that, 1823 or 1923, whatever that show is. The Yellowstone thing. Yeah. And they went down to the town and they had been very self-sufficient. And he says, it seems like instead of working for ourselves now we're working to put the money into your pocket. They were looking for
appliances or
something.
They
were looking at appliances. They're like, electricity, we'll run the electricity out. So now instead of working for ourselves and being self-sufficient, now we're working for somebody else. That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. I kind of like my air fryer. I
do like my air conditioning and my heat, even though,
Well, and I don't know, about 10 years ago, I started doing some kind of analysis in the economy, and I just call it the Walmart economy, right? It's like, I'd rather buy 10 cheap things than one good thing. I hate buying.
And so pre-19, when we did not depend on the IRS for taxes. Now, if you notice, and this is hyper local, but Cumberland County, we're $805 million behind capital improvements for the school system. And their suggestion was to close certain schools. And some of the schools are almost 100 years old, but they've survived that long. Like, they're just now considering closing them when they have schools that were built in the 70s that they want to close because of the same, like they both have maintenance issues through the wazoo, but at least we built them better. So back to the Walmart thing, we did buy the one expensive thing back then, but it lasted.
It did.
That's right.
And now, I think about
everything is disposable now.
Well, I think
and
about
that's not a good thing.
My grandparents pass away, and my mom, all this stuff want to give away and hold on to this stuff. It was hold on to bull worthy.
Right.
Now I think I look around my house, I'm like, if I drop dead tomorrow, hopefully my cat won't eat my face, but what's here that I'm going to pass on to anybody?
Yeah.
Probably something left over from my grandparents.
That's right.
There's nothing I bought in the last year that is like heirloom worthy, I guess, heirloom quality.
That's hilarious because I remember when I moved my mom in with me, when I moved her across country, and she used to tell me, why do you always have to buy the best of the best? But just you go to Walmart and get, because if I can buy a Walmart t-shirt for $8, sure, I wash it once and it's no good anymore. Or I can go to Macy's and get a t-shirt for $50 and I I'm still wearing it.
Yeah.
Well,
15
I'm
years
guilty
later.
of that too. I've been like going to Kohl's a lot for pants and stuff. And then a friend of mine works at Macy's, says, come over here, we're having a sale. I'm like, oh, this is nicer. I normally buy my clothes off the shelf. It's all folded.
Yeah,
everything there's on a hanger. It's all.
I have suits from Casual Corner that I paid hundreds of dollars for. I have over 300 suits because I'm a clothes whore. But anyway, a lot of money.
Welcome to the cabinet, the money whores. Yes.
But I wore them up to the Leadership Institute at the Campaign Leadership College, and they're like, "Oh my God, I love your suit." I'm like, "Yeah, this is 27 years old. Thank you very much."
Nice. What'd you wear to the protests a couple weeks ago?
I wore jeans.
Jeans. Okay.
But a pair of jeans that's about 20 years old, though.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Fair enough. Yeah. See, she went up and protested about the Supreme Court.
Yes, on the Supreme Court.
Have we had any resolution with that since?
No, it won't be done until June.
Wow.
They take a long time to write their opinions.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it'll break the way
I
it should.
kind of like politics a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I have to admit, I've always had an interest in SCOTUS, and so I find myself on their website listening to some of the arguments.
I need to get there. See, right now I've been focusing on local judicial stuff because there's always hinky crap going on that I think needs to be aired.
I like to find, cases that have some kind of interest, and I'll just go through and listen because it helps me understand the law a little bit more.
Right. Well, understand their thinking at least.
Yeah.
Well, when some of the questions they ask, you're like, I don't know what you're thinking. So tell me, if I wanted to reach out to you or make a contribution, how do I find you, Richard?
Richard
Dansie for Senate.
Dansie.
Put it on screen.
Thank you very much.
See, I actually wrote it out tonight.
Yeah, buddy.
Today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dansie4senate.us.
Okay.
And part of, you asked that question about where do I see myself if I lose, right? I don't know.
Not if you don't. You're not a loser if you
I
don't,
don't
win the seat, right? Because you put yourself out there.
Softball.
I'm not worried about. That's been natural.
I always say second place is you're the number one loser, but I mean, I'm here in modern times.
But I can't look that far ahead. I don't know what will happen or where, but just me getting my name out and showing people that I'm competent and capable. I don't know what opportunities will present themselves, and I'm going to take it as it comes.
Well, we, as having been on ballots, we appreciate anybody that's got the stones to do it. Number one, you put yourself on there, number one. But number two, we urge everybody to stay connected, stay involved. Try to make the effort. Go join a city board and commission. Just do something to keep yourself plugged in to the process, because we need people that are willing to step up and speak out.
Absolutely.